Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about drums and specifically build-ups, where it's very common that you have a lot of the same drum sounds very close together, and I wanted to give you a few tips to kind of combat that effect, where if you have the same drum sample play many times after one another, where it can kind of sound very machine-like and very much like a machine gun. It's called the machine gun effect, and I have a few tips for you how you can kind of prevent that from happening and make your drum sounds a little bit more interesting. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so this is what we have. This is what the final product sounds like. And I'll show you how from scratch how you can set up everything and stuff like that. So let's take a listen. So a very nice build-up, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it sounds very cool and very interesting. So let's actually create this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new MIDI clip, and I'm going to throw on a velocity and then a drum rack. And just so I don't have to find the same sample again, I'm just going to copy over a sampler, as you can see, with the sample in it. And I'm going to paste that on 3 different instrument tracks. I don't think I did anything special with this. You can just drag in a sample on an empty drum rack and it will set it up like this. And what you want to do is you want to go into the channels area, and what we can do is set one left and one slightly right, and now we can start working on our build-up. So for this one I'll actually just copy over the MIDI, as that's easier. And as you can see, the MIDI still works. I also want to note that we have a pitch bend here. So inside the MIDI, what I've done is I've pitch bended up slightly. And then what's important is that you set the pitch bend in the MIDI here. So as you can see, this is an octave in pitch bend. Normally it starts off as +5 semitones, which you want to change. So that's the only thing I changed in the sampler there. So yeah, we have the pitch bend, and this pitch bend is affecting all the 3 different samples at the same way. So all of them are set to an octave. And we now just have 3 different samples basically playing the same thing, but one is slightly left and slightly right. Another thing to note here is the velocities of these samplers. As you can see, the velocity for the ones that are on the left and right ones are a little bit lower than our main ones here, and that's so that they're just a little bit less loud than the main ones, which are playing basically first we have the 4 or the 1/4 notes, then we have 1/8, and then 1/16 at the end. So I would consider those the main ones, which is this channel here, and these are a little bit less loud. You could also turn them just down in dB, but with velocity it's a little bit easier for me because of the step we're going to do a little bit later. So that's still very simple, and it doesn't sound that great right now. So what I'd like to do is, what you can do is you can, this is basically, these are all different channels, so you can also add effects to different samples. So I can drag in an EQ here, and just to make it a little bit different sounding, we can give a general boost here. We'll make a little bit of a cut. This is a little bit random for me. I don't really have, perfect science going into this stuff, but we'll do something like this. As you can see, a very gradual curve, nothing special there. And on the other one, we'll do just a little bit of a boost in the mid-range, so they sound slightly different from each other, and that will again give it a little bit more of a human feeling. So that's that. Now next, what I like to do with my build-up is kind of filter it. As you can hear from the other one, here it starts out low passed. So to achieve that, it's just a low pass filter, kind of going like this, very simple. And what that does is it creates a little bit more suspense in the build-up, because we're going to the high end. There's a lot more energy there, so you're bringing up the energy level. And to help with that, what you can do is you can look at your fundamental in the spectrum here, and we'll set a high pass just below that. And then towards these last few bars here, we can kind of filter them out as well. And that will give you this. Which sounds very nice and sounds a lot more energetic than if you were to not filter it. Again, it's a little bit more suspenseful and sounds a lot cooler that way. Another thing I like to do is to add a reverb. And we're going to set this up to have a very short decay time. And I'm also going to turn off input processing as well as the output processing for the diffusion part of the reverb. And we're just going to have this reverb kind of come in over time, maybe start it off here. We can start it to be a bit lower, but towards the end I want to turn it up a little bit more. And I also want to turn up the decay time here towards the end to about 1 second, and that will add a nice little decay to this part here. So that's what this sounds like. I'll play you the last part here. So that gives it like almost like a sweeping effect, because here obviously not only does the reverb get louder, but it also gets longer, meaning that it kind of adds up to a lot more reverb towards the end there, which gives that nice little sweep. So it still sounds very stagnant, and one of the tricks I wanted to show you is that you can use the velocity MIDI data to kind of randomize the velocities. So let's set this up to, I don't know, let's set to 14 and see what that sounds like. 14 might be very extreme. But you can hear that some hits are a little bit louder than other hits. We can turn this down a little bit. But this, basically what this does is it makes it obviously one sample a bit louder than the other. And that helps, again, giving it a little bit more of a human feeling. There's also other things you can do. For example, you can do like random panning if you're into that. We'll do that on the main one here, where it kind of pans the things left and right, which I don't really like myself. There's also other things. We can turn on a filter, and we can turn this down a little bit and then set the velocity up. That should also help with that, especially towards the end here. Gives it a little bit more high end to the louder ones and a little bit less high end to the quieter ones, and that again helps with making it a little bit different sounding. But those were some tips I wanted to show you for getting a little bit more of a natural build-up sound from your snares. You can obviously also apply this to like kicks and stuff like that, or maybe you have a synth sound which you can render out and put into a sampler, and you can do this as well. And obviously there's a lot more of effects that you can put on this to make it sound even cooler. But these were some of the basic ones that I wanted to get into. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. The channel has been growing amazingly lately, which is amazing to see that so many people have been supporting me, and I've gotten messages from people who said they share my videos either on the internet or with their friends, like in real life, which is amazing to hear. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. So bye bye.